This April 1st Planning and Zoning meeting is now called to order and open. Dorothy, you want to call the roll?
Yes, sir. Michael Siegerman,
Here.
David Jones,
Here.
Shane Bourgeois,
Here.
Tricia Byram, David Lipscomb,
Here.
Hunter Patterson,
Here.
Cliff Tuttle.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. First thing on the agenda is approval of the March 4th minutes. Has everyone read the minutes? Does anyone have any corrections?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Last item under 3B, second sentence, the name of the commissioner that seconded is missing, and I believe the staff is aware of the correction. So I think we can approve it based on that. So anyway, I'll make a motion.
Okay. Subject to that, we have a motion to approve the minutes. We have a second? Second, all in favor? Raise your hand. All right, that is approved. We're gonna go on to 2A, Meeker Road preliminary plat. You wanna get us into this, Drew?
Yes, consideration and final action concerning a preliminary plat for the Meeker Road subdivision, a 7.629 acre tract of land lying in the Samuel Wallace Survey number 112, abstract number 360, Kerr County, Texas. Said 7.629 acre tract being the same as 7.47 acre tract of land described in volume 1502, page 621, official public records of Kerr County. This is a 23 acre lot subdivision with including some open space and drainage areas that'll be maintained by future property owners, either HOA or private entity. The property in the surrounding area are designated as transitional residential, and it is consistent with the Kerrville 2050 plan for the housing. Subdivision is accessed from residential streets. There should be no impact on the thoroughfare system, no anticipated traffic impact, and the parking, of course, will be as per the zoning code for each building permit. We do have one condition, just to kind of go through the actual plat itself. The cul-de-sac width is drawn at a 50-foot radius, and the fire code requires a 50-foot radius on the pavement. The fire department didn't catch that till today, so we're obviously going to work with the applicant on that. So condition of approval is that they'll need to work on the final design of the cul-de-sac with the city engineer and fire marshal, get that worked out and make sure all the utilities still fit within the right-of-way and adequate radius on the turnaround. And with that, staff recommends approval with those conditions, or with that condition.
Is there somebody here representing this?
They are. The applicant is here if they'd like to jump in at all.
Yeah. I drove out and took a look at this. I know this has been in consideration for a pretty good while.
Yes, sir.
On the backside of the property where you have drainage easements and a lot of common area, a very low level back there, that is what you're talking about will be maintained by a future HOA or private entity? Is that what you said, Drew?
Yes.
You want to kind of explain that to us a little bit about what do you guys see happening? Is it going to be an HOA or is it going to be a...
Yes, sir. On our property, we are definitely having an HOA that's going to maintain the detention pond as well as the easement, the open space easement. It's been formed, hasn't been recorded in Kerr County yet. I just got the certificate of insurance just this morning, so it will be, there will be an annual assessment, very small dollar amount. Based upon our budget, will be $150 a year per house, just to maintain the detention pond and keeping the easement cleared. Outside of the property, did you have a question about the outside of the
No, that was my question, because by looking at the backside of the property, there's a possibility for, you know, some overgrown brush. There's a possibility for some branches in the street out there. There's a possibility, is that going to be water in that pond there?
No, it's not a
dry
detention pond.
area?
I misphrased it. It's a retention pond.
Okay.
So it's not to detain, it's to retain.
So in your HOA docs, you plan for someone to be responsible
Yes,
for
that's
keeping
us.
the brush out of the
We are
yards
responsible
across the
for
street in the
that.
back? Because I know the lady back there, I talked to her. And
Yes,
she
we
was
spoke to the
Yeah,
owner.
we've talked to them quite a bit.
We
Great.
spoke to the
So-
gentleman that owns the park, at least he did when we were talking to him a few
Right.
months ago. And where the jets come out of the retention pond, we'll be responsible to clean that because otherwise our water won't be able to flow through naturally into
Correct.
that drain easement on the back.
Okay.
So
That
we've
was-
taken
that
that
was-
decision.
Anybody
Which
else?
is actually gonna improve it quite a bit from what's currently happening.
Yeah, I
It's
assume
already-
that. It doesn't take much to do.
It's a bad, yeah, it's already tricky.
Yeah.
That was my only question. Anybody else have any questions?
We need to know who you guys are, excuse, for the record,
Yes,
please.
names?
Name
Oh,
and address.
Travis Page, 1316 Lytle Street, Kerrville, Texas, builder.
Joe Byers, I'm the managing partner for 2J Page Development LLC, and my address is 140 Lost Creek, Bulverde, Texas, 78163.
So you are the same Travis Page that's building out of Comanche Trace?
I am.
You're doing
That's
a really
right.
good job. I live right across the street from there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Your wife was very good friends with my daughter in
Yes,
high
that's
school.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
thank you.
we're fortunate for the market and the area, and everybody's kind of buckled up.
That's really good. Anything else? If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'll second.
No, I'm not making the motion.
Oh,
I'm
excuse
entertaining
me.
the motion.
Excuse me.
Make it, David, and I'll make the motion
All
that
right.
we approve as proposed by staff.
And I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Good luck, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
sir.
you guys
Thank you.
being down here and developing.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sorry, Michael, I dozed off.
It's okay. That's why we have David here.
Yeah, all right.
All right, we're gonna move on
We're missing Tricia. You know,
to, that's right.
we need to-
Place is a lot uglier here without her.
Absolutely.
2B, Ridgeland Subdivision, Loop 534. You wanna take us through that, Drew?
Consideration and action, considering a preliminary plat for the Ridgeland Subdivision, a 33.81 acre tract of land situated in the Samuel Wallace Survey number 113, abstract 347. And as conveyed to the city of Kerrville on record, volume 1077, page 351, the official public records of Kerr County, Texas. This is a proposed 135 acre, or 135 lot subdivision for workforce housing. And is included in this request is a variance, I'll get to that real quick, on the overall length of the cul-de-sac. So working with Subdivision Code limits the cul-de-sac length or a dead end to 600 feet. That coincides pretty well with the fire code as far as how many units can be built on one access point. So about 30 units is typically the standard for a fire code without requiring a secondary access. This cul-de-sac is a little bit longer than that. I think it's sort of between 700 and 800 feet, about 45 homes roughly. The fire department is comfortable with that number. And just kind of looking the way the code lines up with, or the subdivision code lines up with the fire code. The maximum block length for a subdivision is 1,200 feet. So we're kind of looking at that as our maximum cul-de-sac length when we do have a variance, or up to about 60 homes is kind of our unwritten policy. Looking to incorporate that into some of the subdivision rewrite that we're doing now, and possibly update to the fire code if we need to. That way we've got some good straight rules for everyone to look at when we get situations like this. Based on the topography in the park, they really can't do anything else with that street, because at the end of that, they're getting into some pretty significant drainage areas. So that street can't go any further anyway. Same as the last one, we do have same issue with the cul-de-sacs. Started design on a 50-foot radius of the right-of-way. We'll work with their engineers to try and get as close to that 50-foot radius of pavement as we can without impacting the lot sizes or the utilities. So engineers will have to work through that one. And I believe we do have a couple on the phone. Anyone that's on the Zoom call, if you would like to speak, you can raise your hand in the app or press *9. Do we have any callers that want to speak? Steve?
Yes, we have one. Just a moment. Please go ahead.
This is Travis Elseth with KFW Engineers. I'm the Director of Residential Subdivisions, Residential Services.
Yeah, Travis, go ahead.
Well, I guess I'm just here to answer any questions that y'all might have.
His title again is Director.
I am the Director of Residential Services at KFW.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I was a little curious about talking about the topography. What's the drainage, water drainage on that long run of street? Do we have any idea how that's gonna work?
Yes. Just a second, let me get the mouse. So,
Well, we have an offsite channel that's going to capture any upgradient flow and route it around the street. And any drainage on the street will be captured by an inlet at the end of the cul-de-sac. And right now we are designing a detention pond to capture that flow from the street and then hold it and release it at existing rates.
Okay,
so on the screen, you can see here, there is a channel that backs up to the park.
Right.
So any existing drainage coming onto the site won't be going into the backyards. They'll channel that, bring it in down here at the end of the cul-de-sac. Anything off the street, there is a drainage easement running here.
okay.
That'll go into that bigger channel, the kind of natural channel there, and the detention pond.
Super. Thank you.
So the water that goes into the retention pond is, he said something about natural release.
Yeah, so coming out.
So
of the-
as we capture the flow coming off the street, we'll hold it and release it at whatever the rate was at an existing level. So we will not be causing any sort of adverse impact to the drainage culvert just downstream.
And that water's released where?
So that goes down here to the culvert, and I believe it eventually gets over to Third Creek.
I mean, it goes into the bar ditch on the,
Yes, yeah, into the existing
on the west
TxDOT
side of
culverts.
the loop. You're saying, run the arrow down that drainage again. Whoa, on this, the boundary right there?
Yeah, so there is a
That grade
channel
that-
on the back side of the lots between the lot property line and the park property line.
Okay, well, put the other sheet up, match them up again, please. Show me that on this one.
That's
Oh,
that
okay,
gap right
gotcha.
there.
So there's no issues. Everything that's drained out of here up to this point's been natural. It's been going through the dirt is natural. Now we're gonna have water coming off of the streets
Correct.
with debris, with possible grit, dirt, oil.
Right. Any of that goes into the detention pond and is released back to existing conditions as far as volume and velocity.
So there's no, I mean, again, in the past, what's come out of that and released it back into the creek or wherever has been water coming out of land with
Right.
no contaminants. Now what's gonna come with all these houses, with all these streets, with all these cars is gonna come, what's gonna come off the cars? You're gonna have some contaminants in that water. Y'all have no issues with that. You don't see any,
We do not have a stormwater filtration ordinance. So one of the things in the Kerrville 2050 plan for consideration, but
okay?
we have not looked at that at this time.
What's the purpose of the retention pond? Is it,
To keep the flow from, so they can't have it flowing increased volume or increased velocity coming off of the existing conditions
Okay.
after development. So it'll be to slow it down so that
Right.
as it comes off their property, it'll be coming off at the rate that it currently does.
that's the first use, I mean, is there any sediment or anything like that that occurs in those? I'm just,
That'd be part of their maintenance. I mean, yes, there could be sediment, but that's part of the maintenance program
I
with
mean,
the
I'm
DOT to
thinking
do.
about what, heavier than,
So is this another subdivision that's gonna have an HOA that's gonna be responsible for maintaining this area?
I believe.
Yes, sir.
And then the other condition that we have, just referencing the street names, Crest Cove and Hillside Drive and Sandy Cove will need to be replaced. Those match other street names within Kerr County. And then the water, just a couple notes. The water lines at the cul-de-sac terminations at Shutterway and Crater Ridge will need to be looped. That's for the next stage of civil engineering plans that they're gonna review. And then just a comment that Crater Court and Crater Ridge, those consistently named streets, typically one comes off the other. It's not a requirement, but just a note as they're looking at renaming some of these street names. And with that, staff recommends the plat with conditions.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a few questions. So you said with further engineering, they'll have to loop in the water lines. Does that include sanitary?
No, just the water lines, the loop to help that pressure system there. Let's see.
Can you tell what the difference is between the two cul-de-sac ends that meet up, that are split by kind of that drainage area that runs down the middle of the subdivision? As far as how low the elevation goes from the top of the cul-de-sac down to the bottom? Or below?
I got you. So from up here down to the bottom of the creek.
Yes.
Travis, do you know that elevation?
Not off the top of my head. I have another, one of my guys online, Solar, could possibly answer that question.
So that's the cul-de-sac of Shutter Way down to the drainage channel.
It's more to give me an idea of, you know, if we're approving a variance for a longer cul-de-sac or a dead-end street, the reasons for not being able to connect that to the next one. And the elevation change may be great. From here, I can't count the number of contours between
Right.
the two.
Somebody have the answer?
Steve, can you put Solar on?
You wanted to? Yeah, young guy.
Solar, would you raise your hand if so I can identify you, please?
That would be helpful.
He's currently looking it up right now.
So that's
That's sufficient for what you're thinking is? Okay, good.
Solar, we got it.
that would
It's
make it less
about-
likely to connect the two.
roughly 22 feet. Current conditions, obviously with their design, don't have final grading plans, but
Well, I have only two comments, and one of the comments is really about the variances. This is the second subdivision that's come in before us on plating, where a requested variance change for a 600-foot length on the cul-de-sac. Is that not something that code should be looked at? Is there a reason why there's a 600-foot length? Is that fire or whatever it is?
Yes.
Because seem to be the newer developments need a longer
correct.
cul-de-sac.
So the current subdivision code basically states you should not have a dead end unless there are topography, drainage, creeks, river, some kind of natural deterrent or man-made deterrent, if we've got for the park as an example, should not have any dead ends. If there is a dead end, the maximum length is 600 feet without a variance, and that's where it coincides with the fire code pretty well. Any section of a subdivision over 30 homes requires 2 points of access. And so 600 feet typically is going to be 30 homes with 50-foot lots or thereabouts, depending upon the cul-de-sac and the intersection design. Talking with the fire department, they're comfortable going up to 60 homes on a cul-de-sac.
Huh.
That's, again, consistent with the maximum block length of 1,200 feet. So that cul-de-sac could be up to 1,200 feet, no more than 60 homes. Beyond that, then they may need to look at sprinkler systems for all the homes, if that were the case. But clearly, we have a topography to concern here with up against the park. It's not really a creek, but the natural drainage and the hillside. So we do recommend the variance based on topography and based on public's health, safety, and welfare. It is consistent with that, and the fire marshal agreed that this would be acceptable.
My second comment is this is second or third time I've seen the workforce housing terminology used.
Mhm.
Is there a reason for using workforce housing terminology for some of these subdivisions, or is it just?
Just part of what they're proposing.
Okay.
So that as we're looking at the plats, obviously what they build on the plat doesn't affect the plat at all.
Exactly right. I'm just
But-
curious to know because some people look at it as not a flattering term.
Right.
Workforce housing, and I'm wondering if I don't know if we can do this, somehow get away from the terminology of building a 130 home or 125 home workforce housing project. Something to think about.
Will do.
Any other
And it's, and in that definition of workplace housing, is that based on, money or on square footage or
Based on value. So that's based on
price?
price point, and I believe it's 80% of the average wage and income for Kerr County. So that was also part of their development agreement with City Council for the property, that they have a maximum price point.
That I understand, and that's
So-
probably something good to put in it. It would just be nice not to have the terminology.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I'm
Just a thought.
I'm just, trying to, and then the square footage is 1,200?
Travis, you want to raise your hand again on that one?
What's your average square foot in the houses? Oh,
The average square foot of housing is going to be somewhere between, I believe, 1,600 and 2,400.
And your price points are gonna be from where to where?
That I have to refer to the developer. I do not know that answer.
topped out at 220?
I think it's 227, I believe.
That's something in the agreement with the city.
That's correct.
Okay, good. Okay, that answers my question. Anything else?
And of course, that number does adjust as
Sure.
values adjust annually, but that was kind of the starting point when the development agreement started.
I have no further questions. If there are no further questions from any of the commissioners, I'll entertain a motion
Motion
to,
with the conditions.
we have a motion to approve with the conditions. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. It passes unanimously. Now we're gonna move on to 3A, public hearing, consideration and action, 1555 Bandera Highway. Drew, we'll let you go through and tell us about this, then we'll open up the public hearing for questions.
Okay. This is a public hearing, consideration and action to recommend an ordinance to change the zoning from AG Agriculture District to R3 Multifamily Residential District on approximately 7.167 acres of the William C. Francis Survey 146, Abstract 137, City of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas, generally located at 1555 Bandera. Do you want me to go through the full staff report or pass it over to the applicant
Let's-
first?
You've introduced it, let's open the public hearing. We're gonna open the public hearing at 4:52. Public hearing is open. Do we have any speakers?
We have no callers.
No speakers. Did we receive any notices from neighbors or?
Nope, we have not.
So with that being said, we'll close the public hearing 4:52.
Okay.
Now we'll proceed.
We did send out 12 letters, and we have not received any comments back from those. Here's the aerial of the property, right on the river at 173. Currently zoned Ag or AG, and this is right across the street from the Museum of the Southwest. To the north is R3. To the south is the museum, PI. Across the river is PI, and then to the, I guess, east is also Ag property. As far as the future land use plan and the Kerrville 2050 comprehensive plan, it is designated as the entertainment mixed use. And within the entertainment mixed use is multifamily. So it is consistent with the comprehensive plan as well. There's a rendering of the site plan and the proposed access and the, of course, drive around and some of their landscaping. It is adjacent to the river trail on the backside of the property. There should be no traffic impact as this is on a primary arterial. So the street was built for these types of uses. All parking requirements will be required to meet the zoning code for the R3. With the surrounding uses as R3 and multifamily is consistent with both the comprehensive plan and zoning policies. Based on the, see with those, staff recommends approval. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
We have representatives here of this project as well.
Jeff Tondry with Vickery and Associates, address at 12940 Country Parkway, San Antonio. This rezoning from ag to R3 is to accommodate a 130-bed skilled nursing center regulated by the state of Texas regulations. So I'm available to answer questions, but do not, unless needed, not going to give a formal presentation.
Just a couple of curiosities. So this is adjacent to the facilities that are a rehabilitation facility and.
Emerald College is next door, yes.
And no affiliation with that group at all?
No, sir.
So this is the first facility you guys will be operating down here?
In Kerrville, yes, sir.
Kerrville. Any idea how many employees you're going to have? Not critical, but I'm just, I mean, this is, I assume this is a really good thing for Kerrville's economy.
I'm going to defer that to you.
Okay,
I'm David Frick with Smithers Merchant Builders out of San Antonio.
yes, sir.
And we'll be the developer and contractor on the project. So it's obviously, we have to have what they call a certificate of need. So it's apples and oranges compared to our neighbor. They actually work good together. So our primary, say, payer source is Medicaid and Medicare programs versus private pay. Once the facility's at about 90% occupancy, they'll have between 100 and 115 full-time employees working 3 different shifts. As far as an annual payroll, they're going to be, when they get to that occupancy level, they'll be between $3.5 and $4 million. So it's the same function as the home that's just south of there. I think it's like 1.2 miles.
Yep.
So as far as classifying what the facility is, it's the same function as that home. And those beds were issued based on demographics, and more than anything, the state looks at occupancy rates. And at this time, Kerrville is ready for another nursing home.
Okay.
Based on that. It's about a 2-year process just to get the certificate of need from the state to be able to build one of these and participate in the Medicare and Medicaid program.
That was my question. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Thank y'all.
If there are there no other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion, unless you have questions for Drew. Can we get a motion on
I move that we,
zoning change?
accept the proposal as presented by staff.
Do we have a motion? Do we?
I'll second.
We have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion is approved 5-0. We appreciate you guys coming down here and look forward to having you here. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's it for our agenda today. Do you have anything, Drew?
Just a quick update
Staff
on
report?
Subdivision Code. The Code Review Committee met yesterday and kind of hammered out a few more policy decisions as far as private streets, sidewalks, and I'm blank. What did we talk about yesterday?
Private streets, sidewalks, and
Traffic impact analysis, and when those are required and how they're triggered and what those processes are. Next steps, I'll be working with Mike to go through and Mike Hayes to work through, finish combining all the chapters, get a final draft to the Code Review Committee probably mid-April. And then Code Review Committee will meet probably mid-May for one final review, and then throw it to you guys hopefully in June. And in between Code Review Committee and P&Z, it'll go out to a third-party attorney for review. And then we'll bring that proposal to you guys and then on to City Council.
And then will we be meeting again in April?
No, we do not have another meeting in April. Next meeting will be May, and yes, we do have a case in May already, so.
So you'll notify us when?
Yep, we'll get that all out. I think it's May 6th.
If there isn't anything else, we'll adjourn at 4:59.